Good morning. My name is Andrew Jenkins. I'm the director for the digital portfolio for DMAC. And to complement what Joel was already sharing with you this morning, we're going to take a deep dive into social. And the way I position it is, social is not here to replace organic or direct. People, from my perspective, go to Google to ask a question, and they go to social to ask for a referral or a recommendation. So we're going to talk about strategies on social to support and aid enhancing your propensity to be referred or recommended, and other strategies like that. I know it may be hard to see from the back, but we're going to travel back in time. In 2008, this was the #1 social platform, MySpace. So in just over a decade, we've had a dramatic change in the landscape. MySpace was #1, Facebook was #2. There's a whole bunch down here. Orkut was bought by Google, it doesn't exist anymore. Here's Twitter, Ning.com was rebranded. Anyway, High5 is gone. Huge change over that decade. MySpace has come back again, and as of I think 2 weeks ago, they announced any music-related data from 2016 backward disappeared. No backups. So if you had anything on there, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. I don't know how many of you know what happened in August 2015 on the 24th of August. That's when 1 billion people logged into Facebook in a single day. So again, fast forward 7 years, it's gone from the #2 social network in the world to having 1 billion people log in a single day. 19 million Canadians are on Facebook, which translates to, well actually it's even higher now. This is the breakdown. Now it's hard to see from the back. 76% of Canada is on Facebook, just under 50% is on LinkedIn, 34% on Twitter, and 34% on Instagram, 33 on Pinterest, and 21 on Snapchat. So I'm not here to say, oh, okay, I'm going to give some emphasis to Facebook, but you're going to have to look at a cumulative approach. It's not just, oh, we're going to double down on a single platform, because your audience is not on a single platform. Just another different visualization. Facebook is dominant for presence or penetration to users, but that's where the largest percentage is. But in terms of time spent, Facebook and YouTube is where the greatest amount of time is spent online from a social media perspective. Although we're not the most populated country in the world, we're one of the most connected. And so we're more savvy, we're higher per capita penetration of internet connectivity. So we're a good, shall we say, case study for social presence and social activity. To reach 50 million users, well, it took 75 years for the telephone, 38 years for radio, 13 years for the television, 40 years for the internet. I'm going to just jump down. It took 19 days for Pokemon Go. So the rate of change that we're experiencing, especially because of mobile devices, is rapid. Oh, and it took 24 hours for Chewbacca Mom for 50 million views. So if you, kudos to Chewbacca Mom. 70% of the Canadian households or Canadian population have smartphones. So more and more we have to think about our content is not so much a blog post or a website that we're going to look at on a desktop. We're consuming content on a 2-inch by 3-inch screen. So what are you doing from a content perspective that's going to stop people from scrolling? So now the power of my thumb to either stop to pay attention to your content or just zip on by. So I know it's hard to see from the back, but this is from chiefmartech.com. This is just an example of how things have evolved from the marketing technology landscape from 2011, where there was approximately 150 players, to 2017, where there was approximately 5,000. In 2018, it's not 5,000, but it's actually close to 7,000. Different categories, commerce and sales, data, social and relationships, content and experience. I mean, you can't make out the players. That's how dense it has become for technology. And it's more and more difficult by day for us to decide what tools do I want in my kit bag, from a value proposition, ROI, etc. But no matter what tool you're going to choose, you need to decide, especially from, I get the question all the time about what's the ROI of social. But you need to figure out what is it you want social to solve for you. Are you linking it back to your corporate objectives? Because if you're not, it's not about vanity metrics. It's not tweeting for tweet's sake, or I can't wait to have 1 million fans on Facebook. Then what? So, is it moving you towards your business objectives? And how well do you measure what you're doing now? Do you know whether or not your business objectives are being met? And what, if any, involvement does social have? And are you trying to move the needle? A great place to start is how much social traffic is driven to your website. And from what channels? Was it a Facebook campaign? Was it a blog post that you shared in social? Was it a poll? And how many of you are on Instagram? Okay. Instagram has the highest engagement of any of the social networks. It is actually generating the highest engagement of all of them. But it's crap for referring traffic. The reason being, it's because it's the way it's built. It doesn't refer people away. You look at the images. In order for you to find a link to go somewhere, you have to look at the bio or the comments. And so people stay there. It's sticky. Now, it's great for brand awareness and brand engagement, but if you're hoping for a lot of referral traffic, it just doesn't do it. So again, as we go through this, you're going to learn some of the special capabilities and power of certain platforms, but the trade-offs as well. Native video versus YouTube. So I already mentioned that YouTube is one of the top 2 sites where people spend their time. However, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter all give preferential treatment to video that is uploaded natively or directly to their platforms. Ever since the Ice Bucket Challenge on Facebook, they give preferential treatment to video that's uploaded directly. So you want to make sure that if your video strategy, if you're going to have one, that you have a 2-pronged strategy. You're uploading video to YouTube, but you're uploading the same file to the platforms that you want people engaged on. Yes?
Just a really quick question. Would it be worthwhile having a teaser as a native video? Like here's 60 seconds for the full video, click here, and that's sent to YouTube?
Or just have the teaser refer to, like, well, let me just say one other thing about YouTube. People say, oh, we're going to have a YouTube channel. Unless you're intent on becoming a broadcaster where you're going to have an episode every week, like most television shows, or you're going to have 13 episodes like Netflix and you can binge, just use YouTube as a repository for your video files. And then embed them on properties that you own, like your website, because that's what you can do. So then I would, instead of sending them to YouTube, I'd send them to the full-length video that might be on YouTube, but it's embedded in your website.
Did that answer your question?
Yes. But the other thing is, I want to highlight is that increasingly, like shorter video clips are what get engagement on social. So 60 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and even on like some of the stories on Instagram that are like 15 seconds, and I'll show some examples in a moment. The other thing to highlight is that as much as we're pushing out content, where and when possible is to be conversational. So if you have the opportunity, is to listen first. So what are people saying that in terms of conversations that are relevant to you, to your organization? Are they saying anything about you? You were highlighting reviews earlier. Like, are there some reviews happening online? Is there a thread on Reddit where, and again, that's an emerging platform from a social media perspective, and a lot of what happens that goes viral in the more traditional channels may have started on Reddit. So, but if we listen first and find out, are people using in the industry keywords that are important to us, mentioning us by name, are they talking about pain points or frustrations? We did some monitoring a few years ago for an insurance company, looking at life insurance and dental insurance. No one talks about dental insurance or life insurance and social with any degree of excitement, or at all. Ooh, I'm going to buy insurance today. Wow, we've got a lead. No, they talk about life events that have a correlation to that kind of insurance. I cracked my tooth, or whatever. Or life events, marriage, birth, death, divorce, graduation from college. These are all conversation triggers that I want to be paying attention to, and then engage those people in conversation and potentially educate them along their journey towards considering insurance. Customer service issues, service improvements. We're doing a monitor right now for a client in the US that dries out your phone if you drop it in water. And so nobody knows, or I shouldn't say nobody, very few people know the company by brand, but there's lots of conversation about people, oh, I dropped my phone in the toilet. But you should know that actually, I'm not here to promote the company because you can't use it here, but it is actually not advised to put your phone in rice. You can actually do worse damage. So the content strategy is actually to educate consumers about, if you're going to use rice, use it for rice pilaf and etc., but not to dry out your phone. Looking for praise. You talked about customer services issues before. Oftentimes people will complain about you in social, but if you solve their problem, they'll come back to social to praise you. So yes, you had to go through the uncomfortable experience of being shamed publicly in social where they were complaining, but you get the added benefit of them coming back and saying, thanks so much for taking care of my issue. So the other reason to listen is because if you're not, your competitors are. We did some work a few years ago with a travel company, and we were listening for things related to travel, especially Europe and Italy. So Stacy, I know you can't read it from the back, she tweets out, looking for a holiday to hit to Italy, any recommendations, hotel, hashtag villa, hashtag deal, wanted, hashtag 4 or 5 stars. We responded on behalf of our client to her inquiry with a blog post saying, here's some information that may prove helpful. We didn't go for the sale. It was just, again, responding with help. But what's worth noting is that 4 other competitors responded to the same post. So there are people asking for referrals and recommendations in social, and if you're not paying attention, someone else is poaching them, unbeknownst to you. Helpful content. As I just mentioned, we responded with a blog post that offered the information that they were looking for. But you want to be providing content that educates. You want to lead with value and be helpful whenever possible. It's not content for the close. You'll earn the right to ask for their business. Or if your content's good enough, they'll actually ask you to sell them, or they'll close themselves. 2 of my favorite examples. So Indian Corporation, I interviewed the director of marketing for the firm. They make solder paste. I know, really sexy stuff. For those who aren't familiar with it, this is the component used to connect electronic components to assembly boards. It's the material that is used for that. They have 72 keyword written blogs written by a dozen plus engineers. Their motto is content to contact to cash. Their head of sales told the director of marketing, who I interviewed, that the social media generated leads were the most qualified. So when companies tell me, or people from companies tell me, I don't know what we would say. I don't know what stories we would tell. And I would give them this. If they can write about solder paste and related products, and it's profitable for them to do so, surely you have a story that you can tell. The other example I like to give is River Pools. Marcus Sheridan, who's now known as the sales line, and he works with companies on their content marketing strategies, was the co-founder of River Pools, founded in 2001. Fast forward to 2008, you had the financial crisis in the United States, and they're like, we're selling luxury items typically paid for with discretionary income. So people were canceling their orders, taking their deposits back, or not even buying in the first place. And they're like, we're screwed, what are we gonna do? So they sat down for a bit and went, you know what, we're gonna start a blog. And we're going to blog based on all the objections that we got during sales calls and all the common questions they got during that same conversation. This blog post here, I know you can't read it from the back, the cost of going with vinyl liner pool versus fiberglass pools is attributed to $3.2 million in sales by answering the most common questions that their customers asked. Helpful, informative content. 2001, the company was founded. 2008, the economic downturn. 2009, they start blogging. 2010, they sold 600 pools. It's now the most visited pool site in the world. They don't sell pools all over the world, but that's how good their content is and how informative and how much of a resource they have become. Lee Auden from a company called Top Rank Marketing in Wisconsin, they do most of the B2B content for LinkedIn. Their new mantra is to be the best answer with your content. So when you think about your content, you think about the questions that prospective customers are asking, how can you ensure that you're being the best answer for them? We do a lot of work in the mining space. It's not the most provocative place for content. And a lot of mining industry organizations, their default channel is Twitter to disseminate press releases. Again, not the sexiest form of content. I'm not here to I'm not trashing mining. This is just the circumstance. So we've been doing a lot of education to say, as much as you feel your default channel is Twitter, we already know it's not the biggest channel in Canada. And then I show them and I tell them, you need to trust the data. So the topic mining, top content shared across Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Reddit, and yeah, for those, we can't capture LinkedIn here. But here's more precious than gold, sweeping House bill protects land around Yellowstone from mining. That was shared 100,000 times on Facebook and only 247 on Twitter. So, and again, I show this kind of insight to people in the B2B space to say, you may think that Facebook is only B2C, but it's not true. Trust the data. Your audience is bigger there, potentially, and it's more cost effective. And I love LinkedIn, but you need to look at the data. And this is why you might need a multi-pronged approach. So that's just the topic of mining, but then I can also do research for a specific domain, mining.com. And again, articles for mining.com are dominated by Facebook. They still get shared through Twitter. And Twitter's tremendous value for insights around conversation and so on, but again, don't ignore the data. Building a community around your organization through social. So are people, anyone here in the room that's responsible for your social strategy, and more specifically Facebook, are you going into your page insights to know, are the people that are fans of our page representative of the people we're trying to target? By age, by gender, by geographic location, etc. Be careful if you're running a contest to get people to like your page. Did they come because of who you are as a company, or did they come for the free iPad? If the free iPad brought them, and they're not going to be your customer, well, great, I have 1,000 fans that are useless to me, and I had to give away an iPad. There's a tool out there called Demographics Pro that we've used for different projects. There's a free Chrome extension called Demographics Pro Chrome extension that'll give you a little snapshot of gender, household income, and geographic location, just the data on the left. But if you use the Pro version, you can get insights like what your audience does professionally, what they do in their spare time, what do they like as consumers, and what do they do on social media, and the brands that they have affinities for and the hashtags they use. If you're building a persona to market to, you're wanting to inform your content strategy, where you can put your ad dollars, do you have any brand partnership potential here too? Facebook, we've been emphasizing, but the sad thing, as big as it is, organic reach is near zero because of the algorithm. It is now purely a pay-to-play. So when we're working with organizations, or if you're running it yourself, you need to be thinking about every month, how much do I want to allocate? I can't ignore its size or its reach across Canada, but I need to, whenever I'm putting content there, as I see signs of a little bit of engagement, They call it micro boosting. So can I throw 25 bucks, 50 bucks, $100? If I got 1,000, hey, and it's worth it. It's like throwing gas on a fire. Give it a little more juice. If you're putting out blog posts every month, make sure that there's a bit of budget behind the blog post to give it some extended reach. I'm not, again, you have no choice basically, but it's one of the most cost-effective platforms. You can experiment. So if you want to do some ad play on Facebook first, figure out who your audience is and take the learning and then go to LinkedIn and try it there. We'll get campaigns down to 50 cents per click on Facebook. On LinkedIn, it's $3, $5, $7, $10 per click. Very targeted, but very expensive. So you can blast through a budget really, really fast. Yes?
We found that if you're doing Facebook Live on a daily basis, after around 30 days, Facebook starts to spread your content outside your circle for free. It starts to engage outside of your community.
Yeah. That's why you want to do native video.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going to happen with Facebook Live. There's increasing pressure on Facebook to shut it down since Christchurch in New Zealand. So we're going to see what happens there. Looking at, again, your page insights, even if you're B2B, you may discover that your page audience likes to consume their content at 9 o'clock at night. So you may work 9 to 5, but you need to be publishing your content when your audience wants to engage with it. There was a recent study by Buffer and BuzzSumo where they looked at 777 million posts on Facebook. Videos get at least 59% more engagement than any other form of content. Links posted receive 76% less engagement. So as much as a lot of people produce blog posts and articles and research, which are valuable content, it's not garnering the same level of engagement. Now what you may want to do is do video, like a teaser video, or it's a summary video about a blog post and send people off to take a look at the content. So I'm the former head of social media strategy for the Royal Bank. And what I would recommend there during my time there was, we get an economic report from the bank's analyst. Someone's going to want to read that 20 or 40 page PDF, fine. Interview the analyst, get a 2-minute video where they're describing the 5 highlights from that report. Transcribe the video, that's a blog post. Rip the audio, that's a podcast. So I haven't created anything new. I've taken one asset, which is my content hub, and I've come up with all these different nodes or branches from the content. Images with links, very, very, very tiny. But they also found of the types of content that perform the best, inspirational, funny, practical. How many of you have watched Tasty videos, the brand Tasty? Well, that's from BuzzFeed. So that's practical content. It's sped up, but you can't help it. Well, geez, that cake looks really good, or I want to make that, whatever. BuzzFeed is a data-driven machine. But we all know that the content we respond to is because we responded to it emotionally. Instagram, as I already highlighted, it's garnering the highest engagement of all the platforms. And the recent study from the Edison Research in the US, for 2018, this was the only platform that grew. But it's still not the biggest. So this is one of my former co-op students. She's an influencer here locally. So she had and what you're seeing, and the rise of influencer marketing, the 2 predominant platforms for influencer marketing are Instagram and YouTube. So she's doing work here with L'Oreal, #ad. So more and more influencers are having to be transparent. It'll either say #ad or #sponsored. So do you remember, for some of you will recall the mirror exhibit at the AGO? I remember her telling me she went to the exhibit and she took a separate outfit in her bag to change into to make the most of that venue for her social feed, so that she could get more mileage out of that location and have different outfits and different images and so on. They think about their content very, very differently. It's not, as they say, it's for the gram. They want to take advantage of every opportunity. As a side note, you want a good laugh, it's either Instagram husband or Instagram boyfriend on YouTube. It's a very, very funny video when you have time. Jillian Harris, former bachelorette, and she's on Love It or List It in Vancouver. Here she's doing a sponsored ad for Mary Poppins Returns. Get it now on digital or Blu-ray. Sponsored. This is her in her living room. No, it's Photoshopped and so on, but these are the tie-ins. Increasingly, we are becoming ad fatigued, and people are going through the influencers, even micro-influencers. So she's got, I think, 900,000 followers. She has 25,000. Does anyone know Olivia Jade? She's famous now, not only because of her own influence, but she's the daughter of Lori Loughlin, who's in the admission scandal. Her influence business is just cratered because of her mom. But this is her on her first day of school. Paid partnership with Prime Student, all on Amazon. She has 1.4 million followers. She was more about, like, and she's actually said, you know, Mom, you ruined my career. She was more about going to school and partying. But this is where influence is going. And it's, you know, Instagram is the platform driving it. But it's not about, like, Kim Kardashian has millions of followers, Kylie Jenner, it's $250,000 a post on Instagram for a brand. This is someone with only 700 followers, and it's a sponsored post. Yeah. And this gives you an idea of stories. Stories, these short video clips on every platform, is the predominant content type for engagement. "17 seconds. But this stops you. It stops your thumb from scrolling and you pay attention to the content. This is a local example from the back. It's still essentially a commercial, but we, for whatever reason, pay more attention to it. We have taken Vogue magazine's September issue, ripped out all the ads, taken it from an 8.5 by 11 page to a 2-inch by 3-inch screen, and for whatever reason, wow, this is fantastic. And the magazines are going bankrupt. Yes?
You're talking there about our attention span getting
Yes.
shorter and shorter, aren't you?
What did you say?
Too long a sentence.
Sorry, back to you.
But no, seriously, the fact that we are absorbing that or even paying attention to things that are under 20 seconds. 30-second ads used to be short, now they're shorter, 15. And the concept of a minute or 2-minute ad is almost non-existent any longer.
Well, there's a bit of a dichotomy happening. You know, the video, they want short clips, but you're seeing blog articles, 1,500 to 2,000 words. And if the blog post is research-driven, where I'm conveying data or I'm backing it up with data, that garners some high engagement as well, the high consumption. So there's this kind of like friction. But if you do a teaser video or whatever, but then you'll have Mark Maron, who's a comedian, has a podcast that's an hour and a half sometimes. But it still comes down to if the content is good, people will consume it, no matter the length. Or you can have YouTube. Now, talk shows are less about talk shows and more about what gimmick can we do on this talk show that will play well on YouTube. Carpool karaoke, spill your guts or fill your guts or spill your guts from James Corden, or Jimmy Fallon's lie detector test or whatever. They're all coming up with gimmicks that will play in social, that will go viral. That's a halo effect. James Corden has a bigger audience on YouTube than his show has. And this is just the platforms have changed, the dynamics have changed. My daughter's idea of television is Netflix on her laptop, not sitting on the couch watching television with commercials. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. We're talking about a different demographic, though, aren't we? I mean, for somebody who reads a 1 to 2,000 word law, it's not the same person who is.
Oh, I completely agree, but you have to recognize that your audience is on a bit of a spectrum. So if you're going after the 40-something and above, Facebook. You're going after the 25 to 35-year-old, potentially Instagram. Somewhere in between white-collar professional, LinkedIn. You're going after a teenager, TikTok. TikTok. 1 billion downloads. Jimmy Fallon's now there, Schwarzenegger's there. You want to be a big fish in a small pond? TikTok. It used to be called Musical.ly. It's just filled with memes, but it's where the kids are. So if you're going after the kids, it's worth considering. But I will say this, no matter what the platform is, you have to rationalize it. Any platform you open or channel you open has to be resourced with people and content. So the more platforms you're on, that means the more work it's going to be, and the more diverse your or spread out your management is going to be. So if you want to be conservative and say, you know what, we're going to double down on these few and do them well, and we'll get into some of the other nuances of other platforms and the challenges they present. The one other last example I want to give you is here's Staples. So I wanted to give more of a kind of a B2B example. I mean, it's just stop motion, and I'm not diminishing, but this is instead of just, oh, here's another static brochure page. Basically, I animated a brochure page, but people stop and pay attention to it.
Where was that posted?
That was on Instagram. But this still plays on all the other channels. And so that stories concept, you're going to see more and more predominant on every channel. Twitter. You don't have to tweet. This is the biggest misunderstanding about Twitter for a lot of people.
Can you tell that to Mr. Trump?
Yeah. Well, he's in court right now trying to get permission to block followers that are mean to him. Which is, but because he is president, that would mean that he's actually censoring the public. So it'd be an interesting, anybody know Devin Nunes, the scandal with Devin Nunes?
Yeah.
So very quick side note, Devin Nunes was a Republican who's, he's leaked content to Republicans that he shouldn't, like he's played fast and loose with ethics and rules.
Chairman of the Ethics Committee.
Yeah, well, former, on the Republican side. So former chairman of the Ethics Committee, and he's suing Twitter and 3 users for $250 million because they were mean to him. One of the Twitter accounts was a parody account called Devin Nunes' Mom. And the other one was Devin's Cow. He's a farmer by legacy. The mother's account has been shuttered, but because of the lawsuit, everyone became aware of the Devin Cow Twitter account that had 1,200 followers, and the last time I checked, within a week is now at 600,000. And it's one of the funniest Twitter accounts I've ever seen, at Devin Cow. And so he basically shot himself in the foot. I'm going to sue them, and I actually gave them more power and notoriety. And this is why when it comes to reputation management and social, you need to think about whether I want to engage these trolls or not. So when there was an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico several years ago, BP, the oil company, had their official PR channel, and then some comedians from California created BP Global PR as a parody Twitter account. And they had more followers, and it was obviously more funny, and BP couldn't do anything about it. They were just getting ripped by this PR company, or the fake PR company. But just look up Twitter's advanced search. You have to have a Twitter account, but it's free. If you never tweet in your life, the way I describe Twitter is if I could give you a mechanism to send all the information you could ever dream of wanting or needing for your career, personal interests, or goals, professional and personal, free to your phone or your desktop, would that be of value to you? Most people will say yes. And my answer to that is it's Twitter. All you have to do is learn how to organize it. The advanced search on Twitter, I can search for keywords, hashtags, and exact phrases. I can exclude words like competitors. I can isolate specific Twitter accounts. I can isolate news or videos, specify time frames. So I missed a conference in California a few weeks ago. I put in the hashtag for the conference. I can put in the time frame that I'm looking at that hashtag. I can go back a year. As I mentioned, we just did some work in mining. So we used some more sophisticated tools. We went back and ran a monitor for online conversation for the conference that happened last year, so that we could mine that data and compare it to the data that happened this year. Twitter is data rich. I'll be the first one to say though, or acknowledge, there's lots of trolls, there's lots of crap going on there too. People can be mean, but you can block them or you can ignore them. Another way to organize is lists. You can create a private list of your competitors. You can create a private list of prospects and they won't know they're on the list. Or, as a strategy, you can, if you want to stroke the egos of influencers, so Analytica compiles lists of influencers. They put me on a list saying, social selling expert. So it's a bit of a stroking of my ego, but it's a strategy to make them become aware. Or you want to stroke the ego of people that will share your content, cool people in my circle, whatever you want to call it doesn't matter. But there are strategies to it. But when it comes to Twitter, it's one of the more challenging platforms because you need consistency. So here's the 7 days of the week and the hours of the day. And Tuesday morning at 11, that was, of the whole week, that was the best time to tweet. But I'm not here to say that you should only tweet at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, because I'm only reaching 8 to 10% of my audience. So you need to tweet more times per day, more days per week. And usually that's when the color leaves most people's face when I tell them that, because it means more work, it means more content. And this is where it's not about you. Stop sharing all of your content and only talking about yourself. Be helpful and informative and share third-party content to complement your own. Yes?
So Andrew, I was getting this question. So when is the best time, what's the optimal number of tweets? And if you're tweeting as part of your social strategy, how often?
So I'm going to give you my experience, and I know that I'm an extreme example. So in January of 2014, I had 1,200 followers on Twitter, and I was posting inconsistently. So I said, you know what? I'm going to post 20 times a day, curated content from valuable sources in addition to my own. And I had a scheduling tool, and I have a mechanism to curate content in that kind of volume. By the end of 2014, I had 2,700 followers. So January 2015, I said I'm going to tweet 40 times a day. And I curated and scheduled. In 6 months, I had 5,000 followers, sharing high-value, proven content that's informative and helpful. Now, I've ratcheted back, but it's not about 20 times or 40 times. You could, we at a minimum try to do 4 to 6 times a day for clients, but your audience will tell you. Is your audience growing? Are you seeing green numbers for engagement? Is engagement going up, shares and so on? But again, it's not about sharing 6 tweets a day that's about you. You're sitting here at a table amongst people you've just met. If you sat there talking to the person beside you the whole 2 hours we were here, if I wasn't presenting, and all you did was you talked about yourself, the person beside you is not going to want to sit with you next time around. So we manage the social media for Bladder Cancer Canada. And the example I like to give, I like to use them as an example, even if it's not B2B or B2C, is that it's not just content about woe is me, I have cancer, or anything like that. It's dietary consideration during chemo, how to talk to someone with cancer, what are the typical responsibilities for a caregiver. Here's a new announcement of a drug trial. And that's nothing to do with content from them, which might be, here's a recent research grant that we've awarded. This is helpful content to their stakeholders, be they patients, family members, or whatever. So you need to kind of map your audience and say to yourself, what would be helpful content for them? We managed a junk removal company, but we didn't talk about junk removal because that doesn't happen every day, and it's kind of dull. And they would readily admit that it would be. So we talked about decluttering, getting organized, green, upcycling, recycling, And they got compliments for their content. How to live a more green life, stuff like that.
That's great, thanks.
And there are tools out there where you can research to make sure that the kind of content you're sharing is already proven to perform. The other thing I like to highlight is, we can push out a lot of content, but not at the expense of being human. So when you have the chance or have a choice to make when it comes to your approach to your behavior in social, you can be corporate or you can be human. I recommend that you choose being human. It goes a long way, and I want to give an example as to why. So most people don't know who this is. This is Harry Windsor, and Harry was a budding airplane designer, and he decided he was so proud of his design that he sent it to Boeing. Now this is before their recent scandal, and Boeing acknowledged the receipt of said design, and they responded by saying, "We do not accept unsolicited designs." Now, Boeing shouldn't feel threatened. So, but that's how they chose to respond. And they could have said nothing, no response, but this is what they elected to do. But what they didn't know was that this is Harry's dad, John Windsor, co-founder of Victors and Spoils ad agency, who decided, I'm going to share Harry's experience. And so he blogged about it, and it got picked up by television, the New York Times, and so on. And it forced another response from Boeing where they said, we're experts at airplanes, but novices in social media. We're learning as we go. They invited Harry and family out to Boeing in the Pacific Northwest, and they gave him the tour. One of the engineers talked to Harry and said, keep it up. I drew drawings like that when I was a kid, and now I work for Boeing. So, quite a change. Now, Boeing, had they not sent that letter, wouldn't have to respond this way, but Harry's dad recounted this whole redemption story too. And so, got to bring his friend to the flight museum, fireman for a day, pretty cool. But again, it didn't have to happen. But if it did, at least they did a good job of turning things around. Recent example of brands owning their campaigns. So you can't see it from the back. Dear KFC, no one likes your fries. Yours sincerely, the entire world. So what did they do? They turned it into ads. I've got to say, KFC are riding solely on their chicken because, Christ, those are crap fries. How can KFC be so good at chicken and so bad at fries? No one likes your fries. Yours sincerely, the entire world. Weird flex, but okay, from Burger King. Here's the full page ad that KFC ran. Dear KFC, no one likes your fries. Yours sincerely, the entire world. Here it is, and again, ain't no small fry, because they're introducing new fries. Here's Dear KFC, again, new fries coming soon. Here it is in a bus shelter. They owned it, and they removed all power from it, and the media attention that they got for it from earned media. Clayton Hove tweets, saw a bird had crapped on a smart car, totaled it. Smart car response, couldn't have been one bird to Clayton's account, sounds more like 4.5 million. Seriously, we did the math. And here's the math. Here's how many pigeons it would take. Here's how many turkeys. Here's how many emus. And then down here on the right, Smart, a true iron safety cell can withstand up to 9,000 pounds of pressure. Figures are estimated and may not be exact, but they're not totally full of crap. They owned it, and they turned it into something that went viral. A local example, one of my favorites, I know it's hard to read. So Shane reaches out to Samsung Canada on Facebook and says, hello, I bought many Samsung products. I currently have a Samsung LCD TV, Samsung Galaxy S, Samsung laptop. I was just wondering if I could get a free Galaxy S3. I've attached a picture of a dragon I just drew for you. Have a great day. Samsung Canada responds, hey Shane, thanks for inquiring about scoring a free Galaxy S3. Unfortunately, if we gave a free S3 to everyone who asked, we'd probably be out before they ever went on sale, and we'd go under as a company. That being said, your drawing of a dragon is epic, so we're returning the favor. Please find attached a drawing of a kangaroo on a unicycle. What did they do a few weeks later? They sent him a Samsung Galaxy S3 with a custom case. Now this exchange went viral in media, and so did this when he got his phone. $700 for a phone, but the media attention. I'm here years later telling you about this. Yeah, priceless. So, and it's even coming to where it's not about being human and nice. Now people are saying, roast me. So, Mika, hey Wendy's, can you find me the nearest McDonald's? Wendy's answer. Wendy's, how much does a Big Mac cost? Your dignity. And now people specifically go to Wendy's and they taunt Wendy's to give them a response. All just for fun. Wendy's will not allow any member of their social media team to talk to the media. It is like the KFC recipe secret. No one from the social team at Wendy's is known. It's a tightly kept
The voice is very consistent.
Yes, but it's more than one. But again, they know that they've caught lightning in a bottle. But I'm showing this as an example. That doesn't mean, oh, we're going to be like Wendy's and we're going to be snarky. The people know that now, like, they know what's going on. But if you just suddenly became snarky one day and your customer wasn't ready for it, like, you're being a jerk. You're not being like Wendy's. Sorry, you had a question.
Yeah, no, a comment. I was at an AI conference yesterday, and somebody had developed an AI chat bot, and people were engaged with it for over 8 hours in some cases, and 2 people proposed to the chat bot. But the secret was that they used humor in the responses to the chat bot.
Well, and more, when you're on a website and there's a chat bot for you to ask for, more and more of those are driven by AI. They're addressing 60% of the customer service issues. As soon as it hits a wall in its decision tree, it will route you to a human being. But there's been examples where someone has taken a screenshot of where they've made the bot hit the wall, and they've repeatedly asked for the same, and the bot's like, and so they've said, obviously I have to talk to a human being then. So, not to say, oh, we should abandon AI, but again, it's a tool. You have to figure out how and where to use it appropriately. You have the opportunity, though, to delight your customers. So FreshBooks, a local invoicing company here, a few years ago, had a contest where, for their customers, it was like a movie trivia. It wasn't a big deal. It was just like kind of a nonchalant kind of thing. But they sent their customers a individualized size cereal box. But the customers didn't know that inside the cereal box was an iTunes gift card. So this is C.C. Chapman. He wrote a book called Content Rules. He does social media strategy for like the Discovery Channel and other major brands in the U.S. He's an influencer in and of himself, and here he is showing his delight on what FreshBooks sent him. Didn't cost him a thing other than a gift card. Another example I like to give is Aroma Espresso here in Canada. A few years ago, my son was taking a course on the weekends, and I would take him to his class, and I would go and do some work at Starbucks. And I would check in on Foursquare when you still checked in on Foursquare. And I would say, I'm here at Starbucks to do some work or whatever. And a friend of mine said, hey, you should try the Aroma Espresso across the street. And this was when it was just rolling out here in Canada. So the next week I'm there, and I walk in, I check in on Foursquare, and I tweet to them, hey Aroma, here to check you out for the first time. And they responded, oh, welcome, enjoy your time. So then every weekend after, I would go there instead, and we'd have this Twitter exchange. And one week I'm there and I go, hey, Roma, I'm back, did you miss me? And a few hours actually went by because Canada wasn't online. I was having a dialogue with New York because they hadn't staffed Canada yet. And New York responded and said, oh, sorry, we were on a plane. I hope you had a good time. They apologized for not being available to have an exchange with me. And then a few weeks later they said, oh, would you mind DMing us your address? And I did. And they sent me a gift card in the mail for like $20. Starbucks has done squat my entire life for me. They've sent me a loyalty card in the mail because I paid for it. But Aroma Espresso delighted me, and I've told this story about Aroma to thousands, and it cost them $20. So it doesn't have to be a big thing. It's just a small gesture, but you can delight your customers.
Is it the same location you went to every day?
In that case, yeah. But now I will, like there's Starbucks and Aroma, I will I will actively avoid Starbucks to have another option because it's impersonal. I want to highlight some trends that you need to pay attention to. So we talked about how big stories are on all of the platforms. Messaging. Okay, thank you. KLM, the most socially prolific airline in the world, the majority of their customer service interactions are done via Facebook Messenger. And WhatsApp, WhatsApp and Instagram are all owned by Facebook. On the back end, Facebook is going to be integrating all of them, and you're going to start seeing ads, most likely. The other thing I've highlighted down here, WhatsApp is rolling out a WhatsApp for Business version. It's already happening in South America. So more and more. So I went out to Whistler about a year and a half ago to give a presentation to about 170 financial advisors. And they have a dilemma. Their customers want to text, but they're not allowed to text them because it's not an auditable trail of communication with their customers. So all that to highlight, your customers are going to send you a message through Facebook or send you a text message or whatever. They're going to signal to you how they want to be engaged and communicated with. We had a menswear client. They got an inquiry over Facebook about a particular brand they may or may not have carried. And we took the inquiry to them and said, oh, this is a question that came on Facebook. And they said, oh, couldn't they have just called us? And I said, that's not how this works. They asked you what they wanted in the channel that they wanted to ask you. The onus is on you to respond in the same channel in which the inquiry came. Telegram, when Instagram and Facebook were down last week, Telegram, another encrypted messaging app, picked up 3 million users in a single day. Video, we've already talked about how big video is. Instagram, until last week, you had to have 10,000 followers on your Instagram account for someone to swipe up and be redirected to your e-commerce site to look at the product that they just swiped up on. They're now rolling out commerce capabilities in the feed, so you're going to see the threshold drop eventually. I don't know where it's going to end up, but if you're in e-commerce, especially for fashion and lifestyle, that's going to be increasingly important to you to be paying attention to. We've already touched on influencer marketing, but this is only going to get bigger. Already highlighted what's for business, emerging platforms. Start paying attention to Reddit. It's filled with some trolls too, but this is where things emerge. There's a lot of mining discussion happening there, so we're making our mining clients wake up about it. TikTok, it's already had 1 billion downloads. It's where the teenagers are if teenagers are in your market. It was formerly called Musical.ly, so you may have heard it under that brand. To recap, again, I'm not here with a social media hammer looking for a nail. Think about what your business objectives are and where and how social can complement those objectives and those strategies. It may be that not every channel is right for you. So don't think that you have to be on everything, because it's better to be a mile deep on just a few, or it's better to be good at just a few than crap on 6. Figure out what your baseline metrics now are. So how much traffic does social drive? Look at your Google Analytics. Look at your insights for your Facebook page, your Twitter account now, and then track it over time. Do you need any third-party tools to help you? Test, measure, and adjust. We're constantly reviewing what content's working, what day of the week, time of the day, etc. So keep reviewing, but be careful. There is so much data that you can accumulate that you can get into a situation of analysis paralysis. Look for the so what. What's the actionable insight that you can take from the data that you've captured? Focus on the properties you own. We're just tenants on social. We don't own any of it. As they say, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product, and that's why Facebook is monetizing this. Nike's brand is not facebook.com/Nike, it is Nike.com. Same thing for your domain. You're using social, ideally, to drive people back to your website to respond to some sort of call to action.
This is important. You rent Facebook, you own your website.
Yes,
Drive traffic to the right place.
exactly. And so, think about, are you broadcasting or conversing? Are you just spitting out content and ignoring anyone who's asking a question or wanting to engage? Are you being consistent? I'm not saying you have to post 10 times a day on Facebook, but you should be posting 3 to 5 times a week, 3 to 5 times on Instagram, 3 to 5 times on LinkedIn as a company page. Are you posting consistently on LinkedIn as personally? Video on LinkedIn gets viewed 20 times more than any other form of content. And people sharing content on LinkedIn are in the minority, in single digits. So if you're sharing content on LinkedIn, you're in the minority and therefore more visible. But that's going to change over time. How much do you know about your community now? How much of the insights about your community are you leveraging? As I already highlighted, if you're listening first, you'll find those conversations that are relevant or important to your organization, and you have the opportunity to engage in those conversations and influence their outcome. If you're having a reputational issue, but you're not participating in those conversations online, well, basically that ship has sailed. You can't have any impact. Look for data to inform your strategy. Again, it's so data rich that you should be leveraging the information to adjust your content strategy, what platforms you should be on, who you should be targeting from a persona point of view. But finally, I'll just close with, if you do nothing else, at least listen, because there's so much value to be derived from that. Thank you very much.
So thanks, that was great. The question I have is obviously your last bullet was listen, and that theme was woven throughout. I just wonder if you could talk for a minute or so on listening in general versus specific. So there's, obviously there's a couple which you mentioned, stats on Twitter specifically or each platform. But do you have any comments or?
Well, so I'll give you a case example. So I had the opportunity to hear the VP of Marketing for McDonald's Canada give a presentation at a conference, and they faced this very issue. They looked online. They were looking at like news forums, Google alerts, listening on Twitter and so on. I'm sure they had a social media monitoring solution, but that's not the point. I mean, they were collating the data. But what was really important was that when they collated all the online conversation that they weren't participating in, they discovered just extensive amounts of misinformation about how their food was prepared, what was in their food, a variety of issues. Very, very low net promoter score or propensity to recommend. On every metric that they had, it was bad. But again, these were conversations that were happening that they were a bystander of. So they turned it around, and this is when you'll remember the campaign, because it was in the subways and so on. Your questions, our answers. No question was off limits. And so why do your fries look like pristine 5 days later? And stuff like that. And so I worked on a McDonald's commercial years ago, and one of the most viral videos in their campaign was, why does the hamburger in your poster look so delicious and the hamburger in the box I get over the counter looks soggy and flat? And so no edits, continuous feed, director of marketing walks, and she's on video, she's talking, and she said, I'm going to go in, and this video's been 7 million views. She said, it's 1 minute from when I order my burger to when it's in my hand. So the other thing I want to highlight here, they're responding to the issue not by arguing or getting into a debate, they're refuting the misinformation through transparency and their content. So she said, it's 1 minute from ordering my burger to when it's in my hand. She takes it in the bag, walks out, gets in a van, and they drive to the photo shoot at the studio. And she said, it's 4 hours for the photo shoot, and she took everybody through the mechanics of the photo shoot. The burger for the photo shoot is a patty that's frozen, and they sear the edge, so it looks like it's cooked, but it's not. They would layer all the condiments on just so you can see on the edge. Everything is for camera. The commercial that I worked on for McDonald's, they flew a chef from Montreal down, and she cooked a table like this, filled with burgers for camera. Everything was thought out. They took a butter knife, they heated the blade to fold the corners of the cheese down. And she said, it's 4 hours. We want you to want that burger. And this was the level that they were willing to go to be that transparent with their content. Fast forward to the end of the campaign. And part of the reason, one of the benefits of all this listening in the campaign, they learned how much people wanted a vegetarian option, that they actually started developing a vegetarian option. Because they were they weren't listening to what their customer wanted. Net promoter score went up, propensity to recommend or refer went up, and they addressed a lot of the issues around misinformation. So again, just to highlight, listen first. Is there misinformation happening out there about the brand? We worked with a pet food company a few years ago. Someone posted to Facebook, "Your pet food killed my dog." First thing, don't delete it. That was a hard pill for them to swallow. The issue was 2 years old. The woman who owned the dog was still mourning. We're not going to exhume the dog to make this a legal matter, and we're going to take you to court. We know we didn't kill your dog. Not going to happen. The issue was already escalated to the CEO in France. We said, okay, leave it alone, let the algorithm take over and just push it down. We responded with a corporate standard response. And this is where listening is important, because all you have to say to so many trolls is, we hear you, we understand that there's an issue, and here's how we'd like to engage you to see if we can resolve the solution, or come to a solution for you. I'm not admitting guilt or responsibility. Half the battle is, I hear you. And it quells a lot of the issues. And we gave her a toll-free number for her to call to discuss the matter further. She never called. She just wanted to scream into the void. And that happens a lot, but you have to let them scream. And that's not a comfortable position for many brands. I hope that helps.
That's something consistently that we've harped on at the Direct Marketing Association, is as traditional marketers, we learned the mass marketing techniques. So we listened from, how do we get eyeballs? That used to be the game. But this is the game. How do we engage and create a dialogue, an actual conversation? And it's the piece that it's taken us 20 years of really screwing it up. And we're now starting to go, oh, we've been misusing social media and online marketing. And now we're starting to get it. Now the penny's dropping and we're going, like if I was the CMO of a large organization, I would consider putting digital marketing under my sales team, because they know how to speak and listen. We haven't been trained as traditional marketers to listen. We're learning, but it's not our forte. But if you grew up as a salesperson, you were taught to listen. Listening was more important than speaking as a salesperson. So we're trying to draw those distinctions now and apply them to marketing and the thinking. We have a certified digital first marketers program. That might be my phone, I apologize.
It was mine.
We have a program called Certified Digital First Marketer, and the fundamental of it is teasing apart the mass marketing mindset from the dialogue age. And when you get that, you will go about digital marketing completely different. So you heard two great presentations from Joel and Andrew, and I want to thank you. Content is important. Understanding these nuances, I think, are critical. Please stick around, ask them questions. Sorry we didn't get Q&A in there. We got a few, but they're here. And the next session will be a month from now. Kevin Adamus coming up from Florida to talk about the digital first marketers mindset. That's going to be very compelling. I think with no disrespect to the online strategies, I think we're going to need a bigger boat. I think we're going to need a bigger room for Kevin. I will also be addressing what I've noticed is we started down the road of privacy and data protection for compliance. But what we're seeing now is it's actually impacting marketing performance. And so I'm going to talk about data protection and privacy as it applies to improving your brand and improving your customer experience. Think about it. We've been email marketing for years on the mass blast, not really consider how's this landing over there for our customers. And we've just been so eager with this new free medium to just blast as much as we can, as often as we can. We forgot about the customer. And as marketers, that's our job.
We forgot about the fax phase. The faxing phase when we were shotgunning faxes.
Yeah, remember? Yeah, exactly. Actually, it's funny, the GDPR law, or not GDPR, e-privacy, the one coming after it, as to how you communicate in Europe, has a section on fax marketing. Up with the times. All right. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.